In this chapter, I want to work on the fabric for you. Now, I have this angle too severe. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my pencil eraser first. This just really erases pretty good on this paper. So I'm just getting the angle of this top one. And this is a little too far away from the navel. And then we just really cruise down. So I'm measuring this up from there, and that's not right either. Yeah, this needs to come down over here. And then we go really skinny. Sometimes you just got to kind of fix your mistakes in a very powerful way. And that's what I just did there. I made a bit of a mess, but we'll make it happen. And just erase out this top plane. Now, basically, everything that I'm doing here with these folds, they're just cylinders. Honestly, it just seems to me that the whole fabric DVD that I created was all about teaching people how to see folds as cylinders. That looks cool. It's too bright. Too bright. So we're just going to have to tone everything down. Now, look at how tiny this pencil is. I'm really starting to sharpen it down. Now, once I get a pencil to this point, I never really use it that much. I mean, I kind of go for a brand new pencil. But what I'm starting to learn with these Color-Ace pencils is they come in different batches. And some batches seem to be much softer. And this batch is, I think, like a good batch. It's not too soft. They're kind of a little bit more hard. So I'm afraid to switch over. Okay, now let's just kind of make this thing happen. So, squinting at this, it's so much easier when I look at that photograph, because that photograph is giving me simple. Life is giving me life drawing aspect of it. Looking up at this sculpture, there's so much detail. So I'm kind of doing a little bit of both. Now, this is a measurement line that I've got correct in my drawing, thankfully. So the edge of the hip edge of that piece of fabric, it comes a little bit to the left, but that's good enough. So now my whole job is to go from simple to complicated. So let's just kind of put in this one basic underplane tone. Boy, this could be like almost an hour of video. I've got to really choose my battles here with this. Okay, navel. I'm holding my pencil out. Okay, that's actually not that bad. I kind of had it pretty good the first time. And just looking at the underplane of the chips of this statue. So this is almost directly underneath the navel. And we're just going to kind of reiterate. Okay, convex, and then this thing. So we want to have a different pencil stroke for different texture. I know I've said that a couple times, but it's super important. So I'm going with a horizontal, longer pencil stroke to show the texture of the fabric versus the texture of, say, that, which is a short pencil stroke, very choppy, versus this, which is almost like no pencil stroke. That's just like eraser. So you just got to cling on to one or two big lines in the folds. At the same time, you're rolling convex in. That's going to loosen the drawing up a little bit and take it away from flat. We spoke about that earlier, that some cast drawings are so good, but they wind up becoming flat because there's no convex. Okay, complicated, complicated, complicated right over here. And at some point, you just got to kind of commit. And if it's wrong, it's wrong, but you just got to kind of dive into putting in some detail. Because right now, this goes back to what I was talking about in the last chapter of focus. And you just at some point got to really block everything else out of your mind and focus in on these folds as abstract shapes. And I'm doing my best to do that for you while I'm talking. So I might talk a little bit less in this segment, but I'll still chatter on. So I'm just almost, light, dark. And this is all very light middle tone. It's a little dark middle tone right here. I really had that right the first time. I should have just left it. Okay, let's just get in this shadow shape. I'm just drawing shadow shapes. And I'm looking at the statue. This one cylinder shadow shape that I'm doing, this horizontal cylinder, has some serious modeling factors on it. Okay, this is working for me. The pieces of the puzzle are starting to fit together. Cool. And yeah, we just roll right into the shadow, and our top plane gets a little skinnier. Long line. Okay, just blocking in. That's all we're doing right now is blocking in shadow shapes. And we're conscious of our pencil stroke. Gonna get a sharper pencil. There's all these subtle angles to this. A little sharper right over here. And a little sharper right over here. Yeah, this is where if I was, in my studio not shooting an educational DVD, music would be blasting. Just focusing in. Now, what is this technique that I'm going to call what I'm doing right now to get the fabric? This technique, if I'm going to joke a little bit with you, is called closing the door. I remember my teacher told this to me when I was first year of college. We had a fine arts guy. Didn't teach much, but the little that came out of his mouth, really impacted me because he was my first college painting teacher. And he did this abstract stuff. He would just paint a block of wood and it would sell for $20,000. This was in 1990, 91. And he just said one thing one time, and that's this technique. He's like, go home, close the door, and shut off the TV. And that is the technique to get the fabric. Close out all distractions and just focus on measuring the abstract negative space and abstract light shapes and shadow shapes. And I remember when he said that, I was like, yeah, I don't do enough of that. I gotta just tell my friends not to call me between this time of the day, and I'll hang out with them, when I'm done with this. Okay, so we got our first layer in there. I do feel that the texture is a little bit different than the rest of the sculpture. So we're just going to kind of pull out, put back in, pull out, put back in. And time flies when you're doing this stuff. My God, time is flying. I think we're going to have to just put this down and come back and try to work on this more in the next chapter.